said something like, oh, the nanny told me I forgot something and whatever. I was like, oh, do you need me to, like, I can go at lunch and go bring it to her or whatever. And she's like, no, I already did. I was like, what do you mean? When did you do that? She's like, oh, I went home and got it. And I was like, huh? I was like, what was I doing? She goes, you were in the shower. I was like, really? And she's like, I was like, why didn't you say anything? She's like, I figured I'd give you a heart attack. And I was like, well, what about the dog? She's like, I went up and pet the dog. The dog wasn't gonna freak out. It was me. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? And I was just like, thank God I wasn't jacking off. Thank God I wasn't jacking off. Thank God I wasn't jacking off. I did that one time, speaking of headphones, and then maybe we could start this shit up. I was back in my adolescent days or whatever, and I had a porno, right? But my brothers were home, and I was like, I'm going to jack it off, and I'm going to listen to this porno, or I'm going to watch this porno, but I want to hear the sound. Because you got to keep it all quiet. You don't want anybody to hear. So I was like, I'm going to put it in the headphones. So I get to getting ready, and I'm listening to all the sound, and I was like, this is wonderful. And I started pulling on it and whatnot, and it just happened to be like a lull in the music that I heard a knock on my door. And I was like, hey, what's going on? And they're like, hey, erratic's at the door. And I was like, what? Like, full on what lie. And like, you guys know what the what lie is, right?
Oh, yeah, I get it all the time.
Yeah. Oh, you know when people are using the what lie when you know what the what lie is. Yeah. What? And then during that whole time, they're thinking about what they're going to say. And I was like, what? And he's like, erratic's at the door. And I was like, all right, tell him. I wanted to say, give me 10 minutes. And I was like, they're going to know you're jacking off. So I was like, all right, I'll be right out there. And then I'm just like,
flicking it.
Get down. Yeah.
Down, boy. Down, boy.
Man.
You know what's worse, though? Is when it's Bluetooth to Alexa and you forget about that shit. And you're turning it up and you're like, why can't I? Oh, shit, I hope nobody's awake. That's bad for you. All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome in, shitheads, to another episode of Peace, Love, and Shit. Thanks for checking us out. Not sure how you found us, but you can head over to theouthouse.com to find our other shows in the family and to learn more about us in the P3 way. Here on Peace, Love, and Shit, we like to talk about peace, love, and shit. I sent a tweet out this week to Kevin Smith for all the weight loss. I know he's been a big inspiration to Duff Man. I've always enjoyed his flicks, every one of them. And yeah, so that's cool, man. He's
I commend Kevin Smith on what he did. He literally looked death in the face and said, I'm going to make the most out of my fucking second chance. And the doc said, lose 50 pounds. He lost 51, I guess. Awesome. He looks like a completely different man.
Gosh.
Ironically enough, he did this podcast called Fat Man on Batman. And he would always kind of like, he was always kind of self-depreciating, you know, like making fun of himself a lot. So he would wear this shirt or this, a lot of times, hockey jersey, but he's seen in the weight loss photo wearing a t-shirt that says Fat Man in the Fat Man logo from the podcast. He's not fat at all. Yeah. He looks like a completely different person.
He looks great.
And it's like, way to fucking go, man. Kevin Smith is a huge inspiration for me. I remember when Clerks came out, like, we told the homie's mom we was going to watch Clerks, and she's like, no, you're not. And we're like, yeah, dude, we're super excited for this. It was like in the summer when we'd walk around barefoot and try to fill up the toilet with as much pee as we could before the parents came home so that we wouldn't flush it and see how full we could get it. And we're like, yeah, this is what are you guys going to do today? It's like, this guy's like, I'm going to eat a ranch sandwich and watch Clerks. And I'm be like, I'm going to watch him eat a ranch sandwich, bite my fingernails, and watch Clerks. And they're like, no, you're fucking not. We're like, whatever. So they left and we snuck it. Like, I don't know why you didn't just take the VHS, but we snuck it and
we're gonna
watched
watch this later, honey.
Yeah, and there was so much shit I didn't understand being younger and just like, but I remember that being a moment. And then as I grew older, I obviously understood everything and loved all of the movies. And when I first started to fucking listen to podcasts, it was because of Kevin Smith. And I listened to Jay talk about all his sobriety and how he used it for a positive method and a positive habit, and he totally turned his life fucking around and stuff like that. And so when you posed the idea like, yo, you want to fucks with a podcast, I was like, I do, and I have a basis and an inspiration for this, and it's big Kevin Smith. And fucking shout out to Big Kevin Smith, man. I guess you can't even
Regular
call him
Kevin Smith.
regular size.
He
shout
should
out,
change his
shout out
Twitter.
to
You better-
normal size
someone's gonna
Kevin
get on-
Smith.
I'm gonna get on it and sell it to him.
Well, it's that Kevin
Regular
Smith.
size Kevin
nah,
Smith.
he's that Kevin
Yeah.
Smith. It's always been, so
Yeah.
that kind of works too. But no more fat man on Batman. It's regular sized man on Batman.
I wonder if they changed the name just for the gag.
It doesn't rhyme as much. I guess get him a new jersey.
They'll find something.
They'll
They'll
figure
figure
it out.
something
He's
out.
clever. He's
Yeah.
wordy and he's clever. And so whatever, man. I'm glad you're with us, man. And the Showtime special was fire. So keep up the good work.
Yeah. Well, for love this week, you guys, I was reading the news and, it's kind of sad. John McCain passed away on Saturday. Wasn't really a big fan, but I did come across this article where he had an interview back in, what was it,
2008.
2008. So, and this woman was bagging on Obama, how he was just
Bad. Blatantly racist, I
Yeah,
thought.
he was an Arab.
Well, here-
he was a horrible person.
We'll listen to it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, let's listen
So.
to it real quick.
I got to ask you a question. I do not believe in, I can't trust Obama. I have read about him, and he's an Arab. He is not. No?
No, ma'am. He's a decent family man, citizen that I just happen to have disagreements with on fundamental issues, and that's what this campaign is all about. He's not. Thank you. Thank you.
Jesus Christ.
The fact that they're running this campaign, he could have been, you're right. I would just want your votes. I agree with you. He is still a human.
And
We
he
have
stood his
political.
ground.
We have political differences, but yet he's still a family man, and he's still kind of protecting him in some way.
Yeah.
And I thought, that stood out so much to me nowadays. And our president, everything that goes out, it's everything social media and how he.
Well, he said all the
it's
stuff
just-
that John McCain wouldn't, but he won. What's
Yeah.
that say about society?
That sucks. I like the fact that McCain took the high road.
Right.
I drew this caricature because when they were running against each other, it just meant more Bush, and it just meant more that time's evil, which in comparison to this time's evil really wasn't that fucking bad. And to think now, I wish that was the problem, right? I wish it was back then and
Yeah.
that was the problem versus where we're at now. I would have never thought that we would be praising John McCain for everything that he did, maybe partially out of my ignorance, a lot partially because of my political beefs at the time, but he was from that team and he was like, yo, no, this guy does not represent us. This guy is wrong because of this, and he's wrong because of this. Is that true what I read, that he said, yo, I want Obama to speak at my funeral, I want George W. Bush to speak at my
Yeah.
funeral, but Trump don't even fucking go?
Yep.
Yep.
Like cemented that shit before he died. I watched the video of his longtime friend and political aide that read his farewell address or his farewell speech. I read about that he spent 5 years as a POW.
Yeah.
And I was like, I didn't know that. Like,
Oh, yeah.
And like everything that he did. So,
you were
yeah,
but that says a lot about how predispositioned you were to hate him
because he
when
was going
running,
against my man.
because they talked about it.
It's Yankees Red Sox, bitch. Like, I don't give a fuck. I'm sure
But I
Andrew
know, but that-
Benintendi is a fucking great family man, but fuck you right now. Like, I hope you break your leg. Like Andrew Benintendi, he's like a Red Sox all-star right now. But it's like, yo, maybe one time we can have beers about it, but not during baseball season. You coming at me talking shit about my dude, and I'm
my
like,
point
fuck you.
is more to that you weren't even open to learning what he was actually about. Which
Just because I
think
was
too
so
many
this
people
side.
you know what I mean. Too
playing my
many people aren't
team.
willing to, and I think I played my team too much the first time Obama ran too against McCain, because I wasn't real thrilled about him becoming president. Which I still think some of the reasons were rightfully so.
And there's always going to be reasons that are right, and that's
Yeah.
the beauty of having this disagreement. At least both people were still at the betterment. It's not we weren't. It wasn't like somebody leading us down the path of tyranny and revitalized interest in nuclear war with some of our strongest enemies.
Yeah.
Fucking. It was a little more the way
we
it.
definitely agree on that being all wrong.
But still, it
Well,
was it was amazing. to
One of the
read
things that he
about him.
said
Yeah.
in the letter
He had
was
good
he's
qualities.
like, we all need to work together to right these wrongs that we're trying to fix and are dealing with right now. We can't play like political tribes. Like, we have to be able to cross those party lines.
He learned that, I think, later in his career.
It wasn't always the game, right?
No, and then I think that a guy like that cares about his legacy.
Oh, he obviously does, because
Yeah.
he had this letter written,
Yeah.
and it sounded like he had his
He
mind.
said something about you can't put up a wall, right? That
Oh,
was,
yeah.
yeah, that was the big
That wasn't
shot.
That
yeah,
wasn't
shots
on
fired.
purpose. Yeah, dude. Like, this feels like this is like if Tupac got to write his farewell letter on his deathbed instead of just dying in the street. Fucking, I don't know. That was some gangster shit. I'm a fan of McCain.
I applaud
right
him
now.
for that. Yeah, we're not gonna waste a lot of time on it. It is the shit of the week. Some idiot opened fire after losing at a video game at a mall. Completely ridiculous. Horrible video. I'm sure everybody knows. We're gonna stick by our policy of never mentioning people like this by name. No infamy in your dastardly deeds at all, sir. So that sucks.
It was at an arcade. I thought it was at like
Mall.
a video game tournament.
It was
or
at a
something.
mall, though.
But the tournament was
Yeah,
at
it was a
mall.
Madden tournament at a mall.
Crazy.
The video is horrific. Yeah, it's one of those things you don't need to rewatch for
Well,
sure.
fuck them. I'm
Yeah,
not even gonna
so
watch it.
That's that. Moving along, the Twitter sphere brought us some love this week through our love of tacos, our taco challenge. My endless need to search Twitter for stuff. It's weird. I face it like a job. But I was just looking up tacos. Let's talk to other people that want to talk tacos. I reached out. Well, I didn't reach out. I Twittered out. That's what we call it from now on.
Tweeted?
Started following another guy.
I'm pretty sure they already have a term for it.
No.
Tweeted.
No, I said.
Twittered.
No, I. What did I say?
You reached out.
Yeah, I Twittered out
Okay.
instead of reached out.
Oh.
No, the idea being that Twittering out instead of reaching out is when you follow somebody and like a couple of their posts, so they're like, "Oh, this guy's kind of interested." It's like a weird dating game. And then they follow you back, and you're like, "All right, whatever." And then some people get on your nerves, like, "I can't handle your Seymour," and you ditch them. And if they stop following you, you're like, "I don't really care." It's a fucking game. It's a job. It's weird, but I have this weird OCD thing about beating Twitter. So you heard it here first, because I'll talk about this on Conan one day.
Yeah, he keeps
how
saying
I
it.
beat Twitter. I know I can fucking beat Twitter.
I just want to understand it. I just want to figure this thing out.
It's a game.
He says it all the time, and I'm
Oh,
like,
it's a
all right.
game.
Well,
and I'm going to figure it out first.
with
Babe.
the
Well, maybe not
analytics-
first. People figure it out all the time.
just start reading about analytics. That's
Yeah.
the key. That's
Yeah.
the
So
map.
through my Twittering out, I Twittered out to at 10K Tacos. I was like, well, that sounds, what's this guy about? And he owned, or it was about growing up in a taco truck. I'm like, that's kind of cool. And then he said that he was from the Bay Area. And I was like, well, he's kind of local. That's really cool. Like, maybe it'd be cool to talk to this guy one day. That's my thought. Follow. Like a couple tweets. I Twittered out. So he Twittered back. And then we started Twittering each other for a while, right? This is a little bit of foreplay. And we've been talking about
Twittering.
needing guests, and so Duffman just like said, I ain't even doing this shit. I just go in full blast. So he's like, I don't know you, but you should come on our show because you chill with my homie Orange apparently in the Twitter sphere, and we should do an interview.
It's awesome.
So he made the move, and he reached out, and you guys had a couple conversations by phone first, right?
just one.
Oh, just one?
Well, he said, so we should probably jump on a call, yeah? And I was like, yeah, man. Like, we're usually in the outhouse like 8 p.m. on Mondays. You good? And he's like, well, no, yeah, I want to do that. But don't you think we should have a call first and like kind of get to know each other? And I'm like, well, I'm in line at the store and I'm picking up some shit. And then I'm going to eat lunch. And then I got to go back to work. But like, I can call you in 20 minutes. And at first my instinct was to deny. I was just be like, nah, dude, just call me on Monday. But then I was like, no, he's super right. Let's see if this is even a fit.
Yeah.
You know, and I was like, oh, I get it, my bad. And I was like, yeah, 20 minutes. He's like, that should work. So I call him in 25 minutes, and we talked for like a half hour, and it was like he was excited, I was excited. We're both supporters of the medium, and it was just kismet, and it was P3, and it was just a good thing, and it's cool to meet good strangers who have. Everybody's going to be different, and they're going
I
to
hope.
stand on different lines and whatever, but the fact that we can bond over common goodness is like a cool thing. So I was like, let's just fucking run with it.
I bet you.
That's
And
awesome.
I challenge you, Isidro. I checked out a couple of the podcasts. I think you'd be a great ambassador for what's becoming our brand, part of our brand, definitely a huge part of our brand, which is hashtag P3. P3 stands for positively, positivity. And it's something that we don't even confess to mastering by any means. It's a journey for us. It's a journey for others. And just listening to you on your show, man, it sounded like somebody that I would really dig talking to. So when Duffman told me that we were going to bring you in, I thought that was great, man. So thanks for coming on the show. We really appreciate it.
Hell yeah.
Yep.
Hey, what's up, fellas? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you, man. How you doing, man?
Doing well, man. Thanks for the call, man. Looking forward to this, man.
I'm glad. Is this a good time? Are you ready to go?
Yeah, no, this works out perfect, man.
All right, so we were just going to shoot the shit real quick and just like kind of preface you on what we thought we would talk about and then kind of just like dive into the bit. I got Mr. Orange in the outhouse here and Mama KGB is here with me, myself, Duffman.
Hey.
How you doing, Isidro?
I'm doing well. It's nice to meet you guys.
Same.
Thanks for
So
coming
I
on.
didn't catch. Thank you. Thank you for having me on. I got Mr. Orange, but then you kind of cut off. Who else?
Mama
is on there?
KGB.
Mama KGB.
Ma-
She's the boss of the outhouse, bro.
I'm afraid to ask, but it's gonna.
She's Russian born.
I'm gonna keep
She's
it that
a
way.
Russian
And her
princess.
nickname has evolved from Russian princess to Mama KGB over the years.
And it's not a house
That's
here; it's
awesome.
the gulag.
Yeah, it's the good one.
So,
Awesome.
all right. So you guys all know I'm doing the taco challenge, hashtag taco challenge. And it started off, I don't know, I love tacos. And I used to say back in the day that I could eat pizza, burgers, and tacos every day, and I would never get sick of them. And I said that back when I was young and dumb, right? You can't eat like that as you grow older. Obviously, it sticks. But I just have this love for tacos, all tacos, like whether it be fast food tacos or authentic taqueria tacos, homemade tacos. We made a breakfast taco a couple weekends ago out of a pancake. With some sausage, and I put Cholula on it and
Tacos
cheese
are great.
and
That's
syrup.
awesome.
It was delicious. Well, we were talking, and Mama KGB said something like, "You can't eat that shit. That's unhealthy." And I was like, "I challenge you, miss. I'm going to eat one taco every day for the whole month of August because fuck it, I can." 2, it's going to be fucking delicious. 3, I'm going to show you that it's really not that unhealthy to eat tacos. It's a great culinary invention, and it's not just fast food. So with the taco challenge and exercise, and I wanted to weigh myself this morning, so I had the number for tonight. And I didn't get to it, and you gotta like wait after you shit and all that, and it's just like the timing wasn't right. I wasn't that on point today. I was a little out of it today. Mondays are typically not my friend, but that's one of the reasons why we do this show. So anyway, through the taco challenge and the magic of the Twitter,
Yeah, I just literally searched taco. And it was a coincidence that you were so close. I just wanted to see who else was talking about tacos out there and maybe throw some tweets at them about the taco challenge.
so I get an alert on my phone while I am taking my morning constitutional last week, and it was like Mr. Orange and 10K tacos or 10,000 tacos said something or whatever, or Mr. Orange retweeted 10K tacos tweet or something, and I was like, who's this motherfucker? And we've been wanting to get more people involved with the show, not only from a self-serving purpose of expanding our audience, but also just meeting cool people, right? Just being positive and using the powers of the Twitter for good. So I was like on a whim, like, hey man, let me at this guy, right? Social media speak, at 10K Tacos, what's good, man? You want to be on the show? And you replied back. So here we are. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, we got Isidro at 10K Tacos here virtually in the outhouse with us on Monday. Thunderous applause.
Well, thanks for having me on. That was pretty cool, man. I feel the same way, man. I feel like it's an honor to be on here because you just got to pay respects to the karma that's out there, right? When good things happen, you meet good people. So I think this journey, it was planned a long time ago, and then the people that I'm meeting, it's all part of it. So I'm just as humbled, man.
That's
honestly,
really cool.
It's really cool.
And that kismet nature, that karma that you're talking about, since we started this journey for ourselves, it has been ever so prevalent. It's fucking eerie sometimes, even to the point, I was alluding to the fact that today, Monday, wasn't my best friend. Orange is a diehard Giants fan. And he sends me a picture. He's trying to hype me up, like he's trying to boost me up. And he's got the Yankee game on. The Yankees and the White Sox are playing on ESPN tonight. And he sends me a picture of it just as I sit down to watch the game. And he's like, "Hey, look what I got on the TV for you, pal." And the only person that ever has referred to me as pal is my idol Poppy, my grandfather, who taught me about the Yankees back in the day. So him just throwing out that one little text to me, like trying to get me in better spirits, really went tenfold farther than he anticipated it would, just by using that adjective. And that for me,
cool.
for me was a big deal. Yeah, I hadn't even told it. We hadn't had a chance to talk about that yet. And that's just another example of that kismet, karma-esque nature that this healthy hobby has been providing us.
That's awesome.
So I was checking out your website and I listened to some of the episodes. I'm sure I'm gonna have fun listening to more. Growing up in a taco truck, that must have been interesting to say the least, huh?
You know, I hated it. I hated growing up that way because I just felt like I was missing out on a lot of stuff, especially as I was going from, 10, 11 to 12 in my teenage years. So and then for a while I was embarrassed of it. Yeah. And I didn't know this at the time, but of course we were eating a crap load of tacos. And, there's one thing I do want to say when you were talking about your taco challenge, and that I remember this much when I was a kid, we would eat so many tacos that I would ask myself, and I'd ask my siblings, I'm like, man, if we worked at McDonald's, could we eat this many Big Macs and stuff? And we're like, nah, hell no. We had our share. We worked at a flea market where there was all kinds of fast food there, but dude, these tacos we could eat every single day. So it wasn't looked at as a fast food thing. This was our livelihood. So part of it was I hated working those hours because on the weekends is when we would sell them at night. And we would be getting home at 3, 4 in the morning. And I'd wake up at 12 noon the next day. So that was a normal upbringing for me. But I hated it. But the food was always great. And the reason it was great is because my mom made it all. So I was like getting a home cooked meal every single day.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And as I look at my past and I look at how that shaped the person that I am, I'm thinking, man, my parents, they were up to something. They didn't even know. They were just making great ass food. They didn't advertise. They didn't have social media back then. They didn't have all these other things. They just, their food spoke for themselves. So they were able to make a good living selling this type of food. And as a result, we were the beneficiaries of tons of skills that we learned. I learned freaking math because I knew, we sold tacos for $1.25. Now these were the big ones. They're not the little ones. And so I just got used to going, okay, well, 2 is $2.50, 3 $3.75, 5 is $5. And I just thought it was normal to grow up that way. But as it turns out, it wasn't until recently I said, and recently, I mean, the last 10 years, I'm like, man, that's something worth talking about. And when I was looking to start a podcast, my wife was like, well, you're good at talking about your food. And so it just kind of came, right? But yeah, the growing up was interesting. And I thought it was just normal. I thought everybody grew up in a similar situation, but it wasn't. But I don't see it as a special thing, though. I'm sorry about that. I don't see it as a special. Those were the cards that we were dealt.
I think it's
and I just
special
now
because
how
it's unique to your journey. And I mean, if everybody could raise their hand right now in the room and say who grew up on a taco truck, you'd be the only one. So that is a special thing. Even if you put 50 people in a room, there's going to be far fewer people that raise their hand than if you say something else just way more common, So, but it sucks almost to a degree that we are embarrassed or ashamed of what we're experiencing in the moment, especially as a youth, and then we only come to find appreciation for it in retrospect, you know? Like, I mean, that's just part of growing up, I guess.
Yeah, I think a lot of that is just growing up. I remember when I was younger, I felt very fortunate because my dad grew up on a dairy farm. And so I was like, well, I'm not growing up on a dairy farm. But as I got older, I really started to appreciate the value that he got in growing up on that dairy farm that wasn't necessarily passed down to me because I didn't have that same kind of hardship growing up. So I'm sure, Isidro, do you have kids?
Yeah. I have a 26-year-old daughter, but she grew up on the her mom's side. She didn't have the similar thing. But dairy farm. My mom grew up in a farm in Mexico, and she was one of 17 kids, and she was the oldest. She was the second oldest and the oldest of the girls. So she was pushed into a leading position at an early age. I have an uncle that's like younger than my older sister. I just can't imagine my mom and my grandmother kind of competing for babies, like, oh, I'm gonna have a kid. Like, it just
what part
weird,
of Mexico
right?
was she from?
The competition to see how few babies I can have.
What part?
But
what part of Mexico was she from?
When you said dairy, Aguascalientes, and it's one of the smallest states in the country. I was actually born there.
We have a close friend we call him close friend of the show. A guy I work with. We call him Mr. Got a Guy because no matter what you need, he has a guy. And he was born in Jalisco, and he's one of 15 kids, but he's the second from the youngest. So his oldest sister's older than my mom, and like you said, they were fighting over babies. He has several nephews and nieces that are younger than him.
Yeah, Jalisco is a neighboring state to Aguascalientes, where I'm from. So it's very close.
I'm trying to take a trip down there with those guys next year to see their family. We were going to go this year, but we jammed too much stuff into the year. So we're thinking about driving down there next year.
Hey,
I'm looking forward to the food.
Growing
but I'm real quick. I wanted to mention, like, growing up in a dairy farm, what I found, and I did a little bit of research on this, is that farmers are by far, like growing up in a ranch and a farming environment, they are by far the most technologically advanced people.
Yeah.
And because you were forced to come up with innovative ways to make your more efficient, right? And if you think about just even, but even then, look, we're talking about autonomous vehicles today, right? How GPS driven and all the stuff that's going to come out in the next 10, 15 years. Farmers were using GPS in the mid 90s to right? And people don't know a lot of stuff. A lot of technological stuff comes out of farming.
Yeah, I think it all filters down from the military, but then the military passes it along where it's going to help the nation, which is in crop production.
Yeah, the military funds it and innovates it, but the farmers use it, and they use it practically. So I think what you were saying, but that the resourcefulness.
Yeah.
Your dad,
the
right?
work ethic for sure,
especially these days and times with the fucking droughts we've been the bipolar drought.
There's no climate change.
Climate change.
No, that's a hoax. Yeah.
But what I was going to ask you is, I mean, growing up and spending a lot of maybe some of your adolescence or younger adolescence on the taco truck, you probably seen some shit. And then if you were coming home that late at night, I mean, were you guys catering to like more of a bar crowd, or did you? Yeah. Okay, so what was the craziest
that's
shit
a great question
that you saw working on the taco truck serving the bar crowd?
Well, so we did park on the side of this busy corner in East San Jose, which was the Mexican side of town, and so there were about a collection of nightclubs, kind of close together, but sort of not too close, but close enough to walk. So you would just see this constant crowd come in, and they were older people. So I was about 10, 11, 12 years old doing this stuff. Some of the crazy stuff I saw was, I don't think it's crazy, but I used to think, I don't want to be that old and be at a nightclub, because I would see these ladies that I thought they were old, and now they're like my age, but they look a lot they look weathered. They look like a tired bottle of wine.
Ridden hard and put away wet. Hollywood likes to say.
Oh man, and I hate to say it, but I could just imagine as I got older, I'm like that thing looks like roast beef, man. That thing cannot be attractive at all. Like, how do you get in there?
That shit doesn't smell good.
I will
Not
never
a good
ever
looking
do
taco.
Yeah, it's not the taco challenge I want to.
It's not the taco.
Although we did count pink tacos for the taco challenge, just in case we got down to the last minute.
Oh, and I keep trying to pull my card too, and she's being all
She won't let
stingy.
you?
So the old lady's coming out of the old lady's coming out of the bar.
They would wear the skimpiest stuff, and some of them they would show really. I mean, beyond cleavage, you would see because on the truck you sit up higher, so you get to see down. You get to look down on people.
The bird's eye view.
And I could see dollar bills that just wanted to escape, right? Like, just change me to a penny. I don't want to be this dollar. Like, and it was just, and then I'd see younger guys that would go out with these old ladies, and I'm like, this is crazy to me. So I would see that, and then once in a bright while, because it was a little raunchy, you would see cars moving in the middle, like from the 12 o'clock. Midnight to 1:30. You see cars moving and the windows packed, and my dad would be looking at me going like, just don't ask. You'll figure it out. You'll figure it out. I'm like, all right.
So you sold tacos outside of a brothel.
Yeah.
Hey, those ladies just wanted some love.
And then they come out there all sweaty.
Yeah.
Did they ever?
Oh,
Did they ever
man.
pay you with like money from out of their bra,
Ew.
like with a sweaty dollar?
Yeah, no, it was cash only, man. Sometimes I just want to like give it away. Go ahead, just pay me next.
And your parents weren't spending money on rubber gloves. They're like, no, me. We were like, and we were commando. You know, I'm sure those ladies weren't wearing anything underneath.
Oh.
Yeah,
we did everything without any gloves. But no, I mean that's. You know, the other thing I remember seeing a lot were people would get in gunshot fights.
Really?
Like people would bring guns to the nightclubs, and then maybe it would happen. In that time span, I was like from 10 to maybe 18 that I did that. And in that time frame, I probably would have seen about a handful of shootings. And I never saw someone go down, but you could just hear it. And eventually, you're just like, oh, there's another shooting. There was like this gentleman's agreement. Let's stop pointing towards the truck. So we were kind of safe.
Tacos are in the middle. Man.
Yeah, no taco crossfire. Well, it's because after you bust a cap in somebody's ass, nothing you want more than that besides fucking
taco.
forgiveness for your sins
Yeah.
is a taco.
Yeah. So
Shooting motherfuckers gives you an appetite. And if there's a taco truck right there, it's like, well, shit, why am I going to sort? That's phase 2. Excuse me, sir. Can you turn that way? Like, I don't want to hit the taco truck.
We're going to need that later.
yeah. So why does the tortilla have a hole in it, man?
It's a new kind of taco. Don't worry about
It's
it.
imported. It's Swiss, you uncultured motherfucker.
Do people, when you tell those people these stories, do they ever believe you? They're like, nah, you're full of shit. You know what I mean? It's you were there. You witnessed all of this. Do they ever like say, nah?
Well, I rarely tell those stories. I rarely. A lot of my friends that I grew up with, they're still my friends, so they knew about it.
Right.
They knew about stuff like that. But we also grew up in a neighborhood where that was common. So talking about gunshots and people fighting on the street, that was normal. So it wasn't. We weren't around people. It wasn't until I got to college, and I was a criminal justice major. And when I got to college, then it was the first time I remember talking to somebody from the other side of San Jose, where they're like, "Oh, you guys should have a neighborhood watch program." Like, yeah, we do. Hey, the cops are coming.
Yeah, it's called
How'd you kids?
Neighborhood watch your ass.
Yes. So and so that's when talking about these things, I'd come across people that they weren't like not believing me, but they were like, yeah, whatever, that didn't happen. But again, those were far and in between. Well, most of the people. Yeah.
No, I was just gonna say, so many people are fucking liars. It's so hard to trust anybody these days. Like, people are always like, all right, yeah, he's just saying that for like effect, and it sucks that a lot of times in society we get jaded like that. We automatically assume somebody isn't telling the truth.
Yeah.
I found very pleasing so far. We started this whole thing before the year term, but we didn't get serious until January of this year. And then Twitter is completely new to me. I was not on Twitter before. And Twitter is filled with hateful people. I you know, I mean, you can't avoid it. Throw a rock, you're gonna hit somebody spitting some angry shit, some ugly stuff. But there's a lot of love on Twitter too.
There is.
And there's a lot of love I noticed amongst the podcasters. I find it kind of funny. I think you could do a whole bit on the fact that the only people podcasters are talking to on Twitter are other podcasters. But, you know,
that's true, yeah.
But you're hoping that
Here we
you know,
are.
I know, that's what I'm saying. You're hoping that you get better, and then you if you want to advance what you're doing, you advance what you're doing. What brought you to wanting to have a podcast for yourself?
Well, I really started liking podcasts around the same time the rest of the world, except Kim Kardashian. She finally discovered Serial, right? She's like, and so Serial was the first podcast that I remember hearing. And I'm like, wow, this is cool. Where I could, you know, I really saw myself replacing music list at the gym or anything I was doing with the podcast. And the more I started listening to them, I realized this is a cool way. I'm not a good reader. I don't think I could read very well. So I get a lot of my stuff through audio.
I was going to say, are you a subscriber to Audible? Ding! Brought to you by Audible.com.
But, you know, it's funny. I got like 12,000 credits. I still, you know, podcasts have seemed to but then I was in the midst of trying to figure out my next thing, and I was kind of getting tired of what I was doing. Yeah, I was doing environmental health and safety. And so I had an opportunity to strike out on my own, and my wife and I were talking like, what should I do next? And that's when we started talking about maybe you should start a podcast. At that time, I still didn't know I was going to be talking about tacos, but I knew I wanted to start a podcast. I just thought, like everybody that listens to Gary Vaynerchuk, they all want to help people and have a podcast. And I'm like, I don't want to have one of those. That's just stupid. And then I just little by little, I started thinking, well, if I did have a podcast, so it evolved eventually. I just didn't think about talking about tacos. That came to me through my wife helping me kind of sort my crap out. But yeah, I knew that this medium podcasting was going to be something, and I still think it's going to be some. I don't know if I mentioned it in our first conversation, but I think it's an encyclopedia, a digital encyclopedia. If you latch on to the right podcast with the right sources, that could lead you on a whirlwind of trying to figure out, you know, a bunch of resources. So I love the medium.
I think society is not realizing how much they're falling in love with learning stuff. The problem is going to become whether or not they're just listening to the wrong things and are not learning good things. But people are listening to more and more podcasts, and they're absorbing knowledge without even realizing it. You know, like you said, you listen to a variety of shows. It's like somebody reading you the encyclopedia, and you listen to different characters. You know, and by characters I just mean personalities, and how you encounter such a wider range of people while you're riding around in your car. I think my hope is that we're slightly raising the intelligence of everybody with the medium.
I think
Yeah.
I like that it just furthers communication, and in this era where everything is just like text, email. I mean, we gotta like beg people sometimes to pick up the phone. I call them email flickers. Everyone just hides behind their fucking email, and like all these emails go back and forth. It's like whoa, and you'll see it spinning out of control. And I've been guilty of it too. I'm like getting caught up in it, and then I've learned like through guidance of others, it's like, yo, you see where this shit is going wrong? Just pick up the fucking phone, squash this shit. Yep. Let's talk to each other. Let's use our words. You know what I mean? And so I like what you guys are talking about. It referring it to an encyclopedia. It's almost akin to a time capsule to me. You know, one thing that was really cool in my life this year was I had my first son. And he's 5 months old.
Correct.
Yeah, thanks, man. And he's 5 months old now, going on 6 months old. And we did this whole episode remote from, like, we were stranded in the hospital for like a week or whatever in labor. So I went out to a bar down the street with my laptop, called in on the phone with the guys, and then we got other episodes where he's in the room, like special editions, and he's in the room, and you can hear him squealing and making baby noises and shit. That shit is forever documented. And one day, say I get hit by a truck tomorrow, or hopefully not for a long time, but you know what I mean? If I were to go...
Or a taco truck.
If Isidro ever ran me down with a fucking taco truck, my last breath would be, give me
taco.
That's like a scene out of Deadpool, and Isidro just gets out and he unwraps a soft taco and just kind of stuffs it in my mouth, and I just thank you and fade out.
You go to heaven happy, bro.
Between the records that I made, the little movies that we filmed and we're editing, these podcasts that are serial every week, the motherfucker's gonna know me, right? Like if I'm gone, and then say I'm not gone and I grow to be fucking 99, which would be chill. I always used to say I wanted to be 100, right, or over 100. I used to also say I wanted to be president, but you see how things change. But my grandparents, my grandkids or whatever, they could be like, "Yo, what was Granddad like?" And oh my God, he was a character. I remember my idol Poppy, who I referenced before. He was always talking about Big Papa, and that was his Poppy to him, and he would always be telling me stories about how live this motherfucker was. But all I had were the stories that he passed down, which changed, or maybe I've forgotten. If I could pop in a tape, dating myself a tape, or tune to a website or check an archive off a digital hard drive and hear him speak now, all-timey, that would be insane.
Yeah.
So it's cool how we're documenting everything. I don't know.
Yeah, and you just reminded me of one of the things that when I was listening to podcasts early on, I heard of a story of this guy that started StoryCorps. Have you guys heard of that?
Not yet.
And this guy started recording his father for. I think the story goes where his dad ended up coming out as gay later on in his life. Right. So the guy's dad came out when he was elderly saying, "Hey, I was always gay." Gotcha. And so he would record these, and then eventually his dad passed away. And that got me thinking, oh, you know what? We have these things in our pockets where we could just record conversations. Now, there's a lot of legalities between that, but I just started thinking, maybe I should just start interviewing my dad and start talking to him. Well, I started doing that at around the same time his dementia started kicking in. And that's the other reason why I wanted to podcast as it was coming together. I was like, I get to tell a story about my dad. I get to honor him, both my parents. I get to pay a tribute to them of how they were taqueros, and they weren't ahead of their time. They were just surviving. But people need to know that these guys, my parents, were out there selling the stuff that today people take for granted. I mean, everybody loves tacos, but they were raising a family through this. And I'm like, that people should know. I think before they leave, I want people to know who they were. So that's the other motivation part about it.
Did you hear, I'm getting a little off topic, and that's wonderful, and I'm glad we're kind of all on the same page there. Just the medium is more powerful than I think it gets credit for. Mm-hmm. Just kind of because anybody can do it. So many of them are fucking disposable, but that's like anything these days. The technology is just going to breed an abundance of things. But when you really sift through it, that's what I always say about music. Again, further getting off topic, you can never discredit a genre, any genre, because you're only doing yourself a disservice. And there's great songs in every genre. There's also a lot of trash in every genre, but there's great gems in every genre. But did you guys hear about the other day how they uncovered that? I think it was in Massachusetts, I want to say. They uncovered a time capsule, like these people digging in a yard or whatever. They uncovered this from like 1898.
Really?
Wow.
This time capsule, and there was like news clippings and like
That's cool.
Patches from like war uniforms and like letters to the future documenting the
That's
past and
awesome.
stuff. And I was like, that's fucking insane.
That's awesome.
Like,
Yeah.
that was pretty cool. And it was like, it immediately made me want to bury a time
Bury
capsule.
Yeah.
And right now we have the perfect opportunity because my yard is all fucking dirt right now. And because we just got a house, we bought our first house, and it was a new build on a new lot, and it's just all dirt, and it's been too bleeding hot to put any grass in the backyard, so it sucks. Dirt is everywhere and shit, but whatever.
You might be too young for this, but do you remember that movie Poltergeist?
I remember Poltergeist. Yeah, it wasn't. I remember.
I would check it. I would check the county records, see if you guys are in a cemetery. I'm just saying.
Oh, dog. I fucking hope not.
I'm just saying. Hey,
That shit's
I'm just
real,
reporting
though.
the news, bro.
No, I feel you, man. I inherited this office from this other lady that's no longer there when we switched company, and she was a fucking negative ass lady. And there's like, I feel like there's bad juju rubbing off on me in that office. Like, I want to get out. I had this condo one time. I swear to God, I saw a ghost, so I believe it. But luckily, the vibes have been pretty chill at this place. You know, I only seen the baby's head spin around once. So I think
That's
we're
normal,
cool.
right?
Yeah,
5
that's,
months?
That's what they said. That's kind of when it started.
No problem.
Hey, you know, just real quick, since we're talking about that, my wife and I just moved. Well, we bought our home 4 years ago in a new development as well in San Jose. And when we were looking for a home to purchase, we were trying to a certain neighborhood we wanted to be in. And so we were riding around with our realtor, and I said, hey, you know, there's a new development over here. I know about it. Let's just go check out a new home. We weren't planning on purchasing a new home. Anyway, we turn the corner, and we get to this development. That day, we put a deposit. 3 weeks later, we close on the house. I mean, it's so yeah, that's hella fast.
Yeah.
Well, it turns out I know the area because when we were kids, we used to domicile the truck. First, well, we used to put the truck in front of our driveway, so we were popular in the block. Everybody loved us because we had a taco truck right in front of our house.
Yeah.
So at 4:00, people would come over and eat, and then we'd open it up. And I have other few stories about that. But eventually, the city and the county like, hey, you can't do that anymore, and blah blah blah. I understand why now. So we ended up going to a yard where at this time a lot of trucks were coming up. So. People, have you guys heard of Lee's sandwiches?
What
No.
sandwiches?
Lee's like a Chinese, like Bruce Lee, but
No.
Lee's.
No.
Well, anyway, this guy, they're pretty popular. It's a small sandwich shop here in the Bay Area. But anyway, he eventually, my dad helped him out with a small route back in the day. And this guy ended up becoming a big mogul in the catering truck business, and now he has a bunch of stores.
Gotcha.
Well, anyway, in one area he bought a big lot, and that's where he would just rent out space for big trucks. And so my dad was, because he knew him for a long time, he would let my dad park there for free.
Oh, that's awesome.
So these are those things about, like, you know, you hook me up, I'll hook you up.
Yeah.
And well, one of the lots eventually where I live today is where we used to park the taco truck
That's crazy.
overnight.
That's awesome.
That
It's
is-
the crazy
that
shit.
is
Like,
crazy.
right in the front of my door is where in the mornings we
That's
would
so
open it
weird.
up, and it's almost like I never left. And
Yeah.
the thing that sucks, you know, my mom remembers. She's like, I know this neighborhood. I'm like, this is where we would come every morning. But my dad, unfortunately, he doesn't remember that much.
Oh.
But you know, I dig up old photos, and like this whole neighborhood that we're at is been transformed, like many neighborhoods in California. But I have old photos, and when people, I belong to the board of our HOA, and I'll show them photos like, hey, look, this is what our houses looked like before.
That's
So it's
That's
like
crazy, man.
it's almost like it meant to be. Yeah.
That's more of that kismet stuff we keep talking
I
about.
know.
right?
That's
Yeah.
exact. I kind of got chills a little bit when
Yeah.
you said that, because it's just shit's just meant to be. So when you found that out, when you went to that development, was it like, oh, we're putting an offer on this, this is home already, or was it just it's still something that just kind of happened to fall place, and that's a positive coincidence?
It's a positive coincidence.
Yeah.
I knew I wanted to look at new homes. I didn't know that the new developments were at this lot.
But did
I
you remember
like,
when you got there right away? You
yeah.
knew. Oh,
right away.
That's
Yeah,
crazy.
right away.
That's
And
crazy.
eventually they moved to a different yard around the corner that's no longer there. There are new homes there, but I have a photo with that address. And I showed the neighbor one time. I'm like, "This is your address," and they're like, well, "This is what that was." I'm like, "Yeah, it's the front of it's the front of our food truck."
That's
They're called catering trucks. That's the official name.
Yeah.
Catering trucks. But it had the address, and I'm like, "See, this is 649 9th Street."
So you
And
guys,
they're like, "This is." Yeah.
No.
They're like, "That's my house." I'm like, "Oh no, that's the truck."
Oh, wow.
One
So-
of my
so you guys-
neighbors, who's also on the board, when he found out I had a podcast, he too, his parents had a food truck growing up,
oh yeah,
and he just lives around the corner from me. So I was actually thinking of doing a dual episode with him because he grew up in the same. He works in high tech, and you know, I think that we're both in different spots now, right? Like our parents worked their asses off and so that we can enjoy a better life.
Hell yeah,
and so,
man.
so he in one example, like he does some pretty good stuff for Cisco systems. So you know, I mean, I have to believe that a lot of the disciplines that I received as a kid, he got the same thing, and that's what propelled him to go on and have a good career in tech. So good things come out of this stuff, man.
Hell yeah,
Yeah.
man.
Absolutely.
And it's cool to acknowledge your roots and know where you're coming from, man. And that's just more positivity to you, man. More power to you. We really appreciate you joining us tonight. There's too much to uncover, so we hope we can meet you in person or do this again, and further the conversation for our love of tacos, but also just P3 positivity, peace, love, and shit, and just being good quality human beings using the power of the internet and social media for the greater good, man. So like,
Yeah.
we really appreciate it.
Likewise, man. I'm glad that you guys thought of me and welcomed me into your site. And I could tell, man, you guys are great people. It's not easy to have great conversations with people,
Especially
And
that
so-
you've never met over a phone.
Over a phone.
With a slight delay.
Right.
Oh, what you don't know, Isidro, is that we're all jacking off.
Some crazy shit goes down in the outhouse, brother. Now he's like, I'm not so sure I want to come out there. You guys want to come down to San Jose, I'll treat. But
I'll call again. I mean, the phone was fine. Like, I'm not wearing pants either, so I knew it. Takes one to know one. Everyone's got their dick out, even Mama KGB. What kind of relationship is this, Orin? Oh man.
thanks a lot, brother. Hey, let's stay in touch for sure. And we do have a couple ideas maybe we could collaborate with you on, and that would be awesome. We appreciate it. Much love.
Oh, I appreciate it, man.
Thank
I appreciate
you.
it. You guys have a good evening,
You too,
man.
Isidro. Thank
keep
you.
it- Okay, bye.
Thanks, man.
You know, it was such a great conversation with Isidro, and this kind of ties in today thinking about my dad. He grew up in a farm, and he had to go and work at a very young age just to make sure he has clothes to go to school in. So he was 5 years old when he had to go look after cows, which back in the day was
Blows my mind away.
pretty tough. Imagine your
I'm trying to
5-year-old
think of
kid.
I'm trying to think of this guy that I know, that I've only known now for a few years, right? Love him. He's a great guy, without a doubt. But I try to picture 5-year-old him in the USSR. What year was he born?
He was born in 1953.
53. So this is the late 50s.
Right after.
This is, right, motherfuckers getting ready to go into Cuba. This is when the Cold War is at its height. And he's having to go to the next village, right?
Yep, he had to walk
To keep an eye on the fucking cow, bro.
just so that he can make money to make sure he has clothes on his
wish we
back
could
when
have
he
him
went
on
to
the
school.
show.
And you know the thing about it is when Isidro did talk about people who grew up on a farm, your dad, you know, your grandfather, whatever, they are kind of like jack of all trades. My dad can put 2 cars together. My dad can build a house, redo a bathroom, electrical part, do whatever you need him to do, concrete, I mean, from scratch. And that's like one of those things that I don't think our society has that anymore, because you have this person who can only do something, another guy can only do something. You don't have that one person anymore. And when I look at my dad and I'm like, oh my God, are you freaking kidding me? Like, it's just so amazing. And that's because he grew up on a farm. And that's what Isidro said. This is how you do
Well,
it.
not just on a farm in very poor area.
Yeah.
When you don't have money just to go to Walmart or just to go to Home Depot to buy something, you have to be much more industrious
Dude, you gotta
on
see
how to get through life. When I say
Hard.
industrious, see, she says that he can put together 2 cars. And anybody that's listening and they thought to themselves, what do you mean put together 2? Well, he must take, like, you know, one gets in a wreck and he goes finds another one that's got a wreck on the other side and he puts those 2 together. And sometimes that's correct. Sometimes they Franken-Russian cars, bro. They will put the front end from one on the ass end of another. And so Mr. Gotta Guy was saying that one day. He's like, man, they'll do that. And I'm like, I'm just kind of thinking he's kind of just ribbing me a little bit, you know? And so I'm not kidding you. The day I go to ask if it's okay to marry her, he's in the shop, right? And I'm talking to him, and it's hard because we don't speak the same language, right? He speaks a little English, but I basically showed him a picture just to make sure that there was no. I was like, this, you know, and he's like, and he got all happy. Anyways.
Show him
So-
a picture of what? The two of you
The
or
ring.
the ring?
The ring.
Oh.
No, it was us. What I did to her, I was like, see what I do? She's mine now. No. So I
You
show him
clubbed him over the head with a brake pad, and
he shows me what he's working on, and he's putting the front end from like a 2014 Ford on the ass end of like a 2011 Excursion. It was crazy, man. I was
Really? Not even like
I was like,
models?
God, a guy was just talking about this.
No, you buy a car that's hitting back, you buy a car that's hitting the front, you cut it, you put it together, you whatever, and it works.
The body guy, listen, I love both of these gentlemen with all my heart, but from an outsider in, the shit's hilarious because his partner is fucking damn near blind, and they're fixing cars, bro.
That's a bit right
They've
there.
been friends since Russia,
They've been
dude.
friends
Like,
since they were like 15 or 16.
so like since the late 60s, right? He's born
Yeah.
in 53. They've been friends since the mid to late 60s in Russia. And they still work together, and they're getting ready to close up shop soon. It's like literally the end of an era.
Wow.
Nobody's picking it up. They're selling what they can or whatever. So they're retiring. Read the P3 I found this week. I had to bootleg the shit out of this. I had to take a picture of a computer monitor and then screenshot it, crop it, and send it to myself because I was working with apparently some technology from 1997. But here it is for you folks in all its glorious
These people
0K. This half K resolution. They don't give a fuck.
These people are always putting pictures on the
I
outlines.
know, these assholes. Don't they know they're on a radio?
The habits you created to survive will no longer serve you when it's time to thrive. Get out of survival mode. New habits, new life.
I grabbed this because it makes me think of you in the sense that you've asked out loud, which I applaud you for, is why do I get to a point and then like I can't handle success? I can't handle this point. And I think this is what this is about. It took you a certain set of skills to get to where you're at. Now to become the next person that you want to be, because you're always being a better person. In so many ways, I would never want to be any of the people I've ever been before this day, right? You could pick a handful of days out where I was probably a good person, but I don't want to be the person I was when I was younger because there's something about that guy that I know I didn't like, and I changed it. So now that's what our next step is. So now we got to venture into uncharted territory. We have to push ourselves a little bit harder, and we have to develop new habits that are healthy. The old instinctive habits need to change in order for us to grow. I thought it was great. It's short, and I really thought it encapsulated a lot that has to do with what this entire venture is about.
Now I got to figure out what I got to do. What are those new habits? This has become a new habit. This is also attributed to a new life. But how do I get the new life that I want and the shit that I'm striving for? I got to come back into I need to reinvent what survival mode is. Because now I got to survive this new shit. And this shit, like, being confused or down or like, yo, I don't know what to do. Like, it's already won. Like, I already won. Like, what do I got to do now? Like, everything that I did to get what I wanted and everything that I've attained, whether it's personal, romance, financial, offspring, like all these things, is like, cool. Like, check. I need a pool. So that's like a thing. So it's like, and that's cool too, because that's more motivation for me to like kick that shit. And it's like, okay, I can provide this. Everything's stable. Now I want that one piece of excess. And it's like, I got to use that to motivate me to go in and just hustle my ass off to get, and again, I say hustle in a good way, but like work my ass off to get that fucking pool and still spin all these other fucking plates. So that's like kind of like taking it back on a work thing. But what do I do about happiness and P3? Like, that's what I really need to figure out. Like,
I think that's what I was saying. You have to start doing things that make you a little bit more uncomfortable. I know I have to do it. I have bad habits that I still need to stop.
What do you mean
it's
make
like
you
your
feel
golf
uncomfortable?
game. I think that we all have a threshold at which we say, I don't have to worry about that. That's okay. It doesn't matter what you're talking about.
Are you talking about saying no for your own personal satisfaction?
It doesn't matter what I'm talking about. It could be 1,000 different things. It's the point that you have to, if you want to be more positive all the time, then you have to be positive when you really don't want to. At the absolute hardest moment of being positive. When you really just want to say, fuck it, you need to hear me in your ear going, no, you can't just go in the bathroom, jerk off, and then continue on with your day. You gotta face it, and you just whatever that may be. You know, positive is such a broad term. The positivity. It's become a not just a specific thing, just about being necessarily positive. It's more about your entire outward look on life. It's your entire person that you are presenting to others, and it becomes contagious like anything else.
And P3 in this bitch.
Stay positive, people.
Nah, man. P3 is great, and I appreciate that you guys are embracing it and that we're using it as such a backbone for everything we're doing on these podcasts, and I think it could really help a lot of people out. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you guys for jumping on board and really taking this P3 thing to heart, man. Positivity. I am the Duff Man at Duffman916 on IG and the Twitter. One of these days, Mrs. Duffman will get on there at Hollywood Nikki. LSU is coming. We're going to keep bringing you same shit, different toilet. And just go to theouthouse.com for all the good. You know what I mean?
Oh, hey, you guys, follow me at Twitter for all things awesome related. Follow me at mama_KGB.
Thanks for listening, shitheads. There's going to be a new page up on the Outhouse to help you stay positive throughout your day. Look out for the P3 page. I'm at Mr_Orange25. Thanks for checking in. We'll be talking to you guys again next week. Peace.
Peace.
Bye.